Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily. Coming up, big game last night. Jimmy Butler showed up, big time playoff. Jimmy wins the game. Anthony Slater's here to talk about it. S and I break down the Cav and Thunder sweeps to see who was more dominant in the first round. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, fellas. Anthony Slater hanging out late after the Warriors pick up a big win in Game 4 to go up 3-1. Anthony, I think we saw playoff Jimmy between the clutch free throws and the clutch rebound. They were probably glad to have him out there last night.
Yeah, it was a great day to be Jimmy Butler for not only, obviously, they won the game and he had a flying rebound, 27 points, 12 free throws, but in front of me right now, I'm seeing a replay of the Heat game, and currently the Cavaliers are up 38-12. And I'm not gonna call Jimmy Butler a petty individual, but I have an inkling that he may have enjoyed both NBA playoff games tonight, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's 40-12. The Cavaliers, by the way, at this point in this replay. But yeah, I mean, Jimmy Butler, to me, like he said, I talked to him just a little bit at his locker post game. He talked about how painful the injury was. Steve Kerr's saying he probably would have missed 1 to 2 weeks. Jimmy kind of confirmed that, like if it was a regular season. And he kind of tried to play Game 3, but admitted that like it was a good decision, and he would have like basically been waddling on the court if they had allowed him to play Game 3. And tonight he mentioned, he's like, look at me running in the first 3 quarters. He's remember when he had the chase down hard foul on Dylan Brooks? Yeah. He was like, go rewatch that play. I'm scooting up the court. Because he said not only did he fall hard on the, kind of his ass, I guess, can I say that on this podcast? But
yeah, sure.
His like hip kind of like tailbone area kind of came up, and it's made it really hard for him to like lift his left leg as he's running. I guess he loosened up in the fourth. He was really good in the fourth. The 5 free throws that clinched the game, right? He gets fouled on a pretty bad Dylan Brooks foul in the corner for 3. And then the rebound was a lot of people were talking about post-game. Draymond Green gets a stop on Sengun late. But Adams has, he's muscling
He
Looney.
has great position.
Yes, he does. Adams gets that rebound if there's, 99% of wings in the league are the one protecting the corner. Jimmy Butler
got it off the rim. Yeah. I mean, your video, actually, if you guys look on social media, on Anthony's social media, you posted a great angle of it. Yeah. And Jimmy Butler reads the play. As soon as the shot goes up, he breaks to the rim and he literally grabs the rebound at the basket. I mean, if he's a half second late, Steven Adams gets that back, probably with the putback, and
Rockets are up 1 with 5 seconds left. I agree. Yeah. Instead, he gets the foul, hits both free throws, of course. Again, 12-12 from the line. In a series, by the way, that you could say maybe he's partly decided at the line. Houston's missed now at this point, probably. It was 35 free throws in the series at one point. 12,
they missed 12 last night. Yeah, 12 in a one possession game. They missed 12 free throws. I mean, and again, that's partly who you're dealing with, right? This is a lower skilled, kind of like offensively deficient, tough team that I think, we are seeing their flaws in this first round series, and we are seeing the things they need to go into the offseason and potentially try to correct.
Well, it felt like a lot of the decision-making from the Rockets side of things was a little uneven in the fourth quarter. You think about the challenge on that Jimmy Butler foul, some of the double big lineups going back and forth between Sengun and Adams, which was working, I thought, against the Warriors, that size. What do you think from seeing it live? Were there any major mistakes from the Rockets that jumped out to you where it's like, that's the game, other than the free throws, obviously?
Taking Steven Adams out with 4.5, 5 minutes left because the Warriors started hacking and they were making it clear. Steven, we're talking about free throw misses. I think he's 46% from the line. They hacked him twice to get all the way up to the bonus with Looney, put Looney in, and Ime Udoka took him out. And, I get it, right? You don't want all your offensive possessions to suddenly be Steven Adams free throws. But he was so good leading up to that, protecting the rim, unlike I've seen him since
Massive. Yeah.
I covered him in Oklahoma City like a decade ago. And then, obviously the rebounding, the toughness, all that. So, I mean, maybe that's a mistake you could look at. You mentioned the challenge. I think sometimes the ability to challenge really tests like the patience of coaches and the cautionary, because, and again, it's not like you can then look at a call that wasn't made in the last 3 seconds and say, oh, what if they had a challenge? Yeah. So maybe that didn't kill him. How about just the foul by Dillon Brooks? That's a mistake. Like that was like
that's a huge
that was one. Jimmy Butler didn't want to take that shot. It was like 3 on the shot clock. It was like a prayer, and he wasn't going to make it. The game, like Houston might win if Dillon Brooks doesn't commit that foul.
Well, Houston might win if Dillon Brooks isn't on the court at all that last night, because I mean, it seems like not only did he get Draymond going, he got Jimmy Butler going by talking to him at the free throw line. I mean, the hard foul that Jimmy Butler delivered, by the way, a textbook playoff foul, no wind up whatsoever. And Jimmy Butler's super nice to the refs, so they're not even going to review that. But Dillon Brooks gets Jimmy Butler fired up. That big foul on Jimmy Butler down the stretch, I mean, kind of killed him.
Jimmy Butler is really nice to the refs. It's funny. It's one of the things I've noticed. And
go look at how few technical fouls he's had over the course of his career.
It's purposeful.
Never been ejected.
It is. So Dillon Brooks has also actually been pretty good on the floor this series. I think he should get some credit. Yeah. Like the Warriors view him as a shooter they need to get out on. He's not the guy.
Right.
Back in the Memphis series, he was the guy that used to be funneling the ball through. That's no longer the case. I actually think he's played well, but yes, got Draymond Green going. And Jimmy Butler even just said postgame, get me on record, I don't like Dillon Brooks. Because somebody, you know how Dillon Brooks laughed when Jimmy Butler was like hurling some insults? It was presented to Jimmy Butler in the post game, like, looked like you two were having fun out there. And he's like, no. Like I think he respects the competitive level of Dillon Brooks, but he's like, that was not fun. And I do not like Dillon Brooks. Get that on record. So maybe, I don't know. You know how it's like competitive championship level athletes are. It's like,
the
sure,
ego
Dillon Brooks is the reason you got going. Like, no, game 4 is the reason you got going. Like, you need to win this. Jimmy Butler, you're 35. You do not have a championship at this stage of your career. Like, this is your moment. That's why he played.
Well, this is the last ride, right?
Well, it's 2 or 3 years, they believe. You know, they think they can win next year. Honestly, I'd say in this Jimmy Butler era, which we can now call this like last stage of the Warriors, I think they've always viewed the second season when they can maybe make some roster tweaks this summer as the one to go after. I say that while also knowing the fact that they chased themselves all the way up to the 7th seed and got the path that they got, which is a very beatable Houston team at the 2. And then, you know, probably the Wolves in the next round if they advance. Like, this might be the year, even if the roster maybe is not as sharpened as they want it to be.
25-8 when Jimmy Butler is in the lineup. So that is a pretty good proof of concept for next season if they want to roll with it. Another guy who was massive in this game was Brandin Podziemski. Huge rebounds, massive shot making. For him to come out with this type of game, I mean, he's been pretty good all series for them, I feel, stepping into that role. But what'd you see from Pods?
You know, he ate some really bad seafood in Houston before game 2 and said basically had to go 72 hours without eating again. It was that bad. Tried to play game 2. One of the weirder moments of the series was Jimmy Butler comes down on that wild foul, like really nasty fall, obviously. And I went to the back, right? You know, especially how the Houston arena is set up. And I'm sitting there trying to watch Jimmy Butler stretch it out. He goes to the x-ray room. He's walking at like 0.1 miles an hour, waddling. And like it feels like the Warriors' entire season is like resting on what's going on in this tunnel. All their doctors and trainers are coming through. And Brandin Podziemski suddenly looks like he's ghost white, and he's coming back followed by one of their kind of like middle tier trainers because everybody else was worried about Jimmy Butler. And I was like, oh man, Podziemski looks horrible. And it was like nobody cared at the time because it was like Jimmy Butler, you didn't did he just break his hip? But that was like lost in the game 2 loss was like Podziemski was good in game 1, really good, has been their 4th best player for 2 months now. And then was like horrific in game 2 because he was just like really ill. He went 0 of 5 shooting. I don't think he hit rim on the 5 shots. And then was benched down the stretch. You know, he took an IV at halftime, tried to play. Anyway, to your point, like he said he felt a little better in game 3, right? I mean, everybody's been through a sickness like that where, 2 days later, I don't feel as horrible as I did it. Like,
you're not 100%.
But you're still all right, I just went 72 hours without eating. I've now ate for 24 hours, but I'm not quite myself. Tonight, he looked like himself again. And what did he finish with? 28. That's huge. They're a completely different team when he's playing like that.
Pre-game sushi, not the
Houston
vibe.
seafood.
Not in Houston. Don't do it in Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, respectfully, it's not that far from the ocean. It's funny to be talking about a big Warriors playoff win and to spend 10 minutes without talking about Steph Curry. The Rockets did a really good job of just limiting his shots and making him work to get open. I mean, it wasn't even like he necessarily had like a bad game. The Rockets game plan really just took him out of it. You worried at all? Like, did they figure something out? And now the Warriors have to sweat this in game 5, or is this one of those ones that's going to happen every now and then?
Well, I'll say a few things. He had a really bad stretch. I would say that late second quarter, after all, like just the dust ups and mix ups, they threw 4 straight pick 6 turnovers to put Houston up 57-50 at half, and Steph was bad during that stretch. I would in no way say Houston has figured anything out. Now, they did do more double big. They did a zone with the double big. They've got a lot of long athletes. Like they're here. Houston's here for a reason. They won 52 games. They're a 2 seed. We clearly see it's not their half court offense or their star perimeter scoring. So they're
play calling.
Yeah, they're very difficult to deal with for Steph Curry. Now he's found ways and found cracks and success in this series. So again, I'm not like he'll probably have a productive game 5, game 6, whatever. As far as game 5 is concerned, like the Warriors, I would favor Houston. The Warriors showed this in the championship season. They get up 3-1.
Oh, okay.
They get up not for the series, but for game 5, right? Y'all remember the Memphis series? Which, by the way, there's been a lot of on the ground from the Warriors and from people around comparing this Houston series to the 22 second round Memphis series. Really physical, bruising young team that just want, Dylan Brooks heavily involved. And that series was a game 1 Warriors win in Memphis. Game 2 loss, come home, squeak 2 by, go up 3-1, go to Houston and get blown out like the Heat got blown out tonight, right? I think they were down 55 in that game. And then come home for game 6 and close it out. So if this is going to continue on that Memphis formula, that's what I'm thinking. Do y'all remember who was the head coach of the Warriors for game 6 to close out the Memphis Grizzlies?
Not
Steve Kerr.
Was it Jamma?
Kenny Atkinson?
Kenny, maybe
Mike
Kenny
Brown.
Atkinson.
Mike Brown. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. What a throw.
One whole job ago.
Raymond Ritter came in pregame and said Steve Kerr has COVID. And Mike Brown will be the head coach tonight. Mike Brown has an undefeated record as a playoff head coach of the Warriors. He went 12-0 when Steve Kerr had the back. Anyway, sorry, I took you guys.
Pretty good coach.
That's a good trivia bit. No, I forgot completely. I mean, I just memory hold that whole championship run to a certain degree. Anthony, go and read Anthony over at The Athletic. Thanks for hanging out, staying up late for us. Guys, stick around after the break. S and I are going to debate who's been more dominant so far, the Thunder or the Cavs. Anthony?
I'm going to go with the Cavs because I'm looking up right now. It's 49-19 right now in this free play.
It's a good pick.
In the other game last night,
can you call it a game?
The Cavs played a game. The Miami Heat just decided not to show up. The Cavs were completely locked in from the jump. They won the game 138-83.
Oh man!
They won the series in a sweep by 122 points, and that is the most lopsided playoff series in NBA history. It was very impressive. Obviously, the Thunder also swept the Grizzlies, although the last couple games, I think not great. A little closer for the Thunder.
Yep.
I begs the question, S. I mean, these were the 2 best teams all year.
Man,
I think they coasted through their playoff series to a certain degree. I mean, again, the Thunder did have some adversity, but the Cavs definitely didn't. Thunder had to play a tougher opponent. Like the Grizzlies are not as bad as the Miami Heat.
They are not the Miami Heat. No.
Right.
Yeah, that is true.
Who had the most impressive sweep to you?
Wow. Well, you could argue this a couple different ways. You could say, look, the Oklahoma City Thunder had a 29-point comeback, one of the best comebacks in playoff history. That in itself is impressive. The best halftime comeback ever, right?
Yeah.
That is an impressive thing to do.
Without
now,
Frank Reich, which is a very old reference. But
wow. All right. And they did it, obviously, the caveat of Ja Morant and all that type of stuff. That is one impressive part to this. Also, I don't think they had the best SGA series. No. SGA was kind of
Did he even really pop off for one?
He had the final game was the most impressive game that he had. In game 4, he really cooked, and it obviously sent the Grizzlies home. But for the most part, not a great series from SGA, and they still handled business, right? So you can argue one side that way. From the Cavs side, Darius Garland didn't play for 2 of these games, right?
Yeah.
They basically just walked out there in Miami and dominated. Wasn't even a chance. There was bickering and smack talking and trash talking between Tyler Hero and Darius Garland. Didn't even matter.
For no reason.
For no reason. It wasn't even a conversation. It was like they were trying to stir up something. Nothing could even remotely be stirred up. I'm going to say it's the Cavs. The Cavs did have the better sweep just because of how absolutely dominant they were. You think about Ty Jerome, who basically put up 22, 6, and 5 in this series through 4 games. Wildly impressive. And that's from your 6th man. That's a guy who's coming off the bench for you, putting up, all-star level-ish numbers through 4 games. I think it's the Cavs, but in terms of looking forward, I have a question for you. I'll throw a question back at you. Okay.
All right. I like it.
From both of these teams, which I think there's a likely chance both of them make a pretty decent run here. We see them for at least one more round.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We're going to see them in the next round. They've made it.
Yeah, true. Who is the most important player? Now, this is different than best player.
Right.
Who is their most important player?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the most important player, right? We all know this. But
we know Donovan Mitchell
down.
Right. Yeah.
For me, for the Thunder, I think it's Chet Holmgren, and for the Cavs, I think it's Evan Mobley. I think those are the guys that are going to have big time offensive series in going forward, because it's going to be harder for Donovan Mitchell. Let's see how Darius Garland looks. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to be fine for the next round. It's going to be harder for Mitchell. It's going to be harder for Shai. I mean, we know what they're going to do, right? We saw this last year. And last year, I thought it was going to be Jalen Williams, that would step up for OKC. But so far, just what I've seen here the last few weeks, I really think it's Chet. I think Chet is the guy that's going to be the X factor, or whatever moniker we want to give that player, but the guy who's going to have to perform. What about for you? Did I just steal both you guys?
So I'll play devil's advocate here, because I do agree with those picks. Those are fine picks.
Yeah.
I think I would go with Darius Garland and Jalen Williams. So like I said, Shai didn't have the greatest first round series, but you know who did? J-Dub. J-Dub was awesome, amazing in round 1. Very, very assertive as a scorer, was great settling into those mid-range shots, creating his own shot. I thought the chemistry between him and Hartenstein and those bench units looked really, really good. So he's important because he keeps them afloat offensively when Shai is off the floor. And I agree that to a certain extent, Chet does the same. That offensive pairing with him and Hartenstein makes sense. But to me, I think J-Dub, the ceiling as a scorer is higher, especially right now. So he can get to a level that I don't think Chet can. Yeah, absolutely. And he can create off the bounce a little bit more. So I'd say J-Dub. And then for Garland, it's how much are teams going to hunt you out on the defensive end?
Right.
Because if there is one weak, and weak link is a tough way to call it, but look, you're in the playoffs, you're going to get targeted. We saw Jalen Green in this Rockets-Warriors game get targeted. So how are you able to stay on the floor defensively when it's the Pacers or in the Celtics games or series moving forward? Can those guys target you and get you off the floor? That's the big question I have with Darius Garland.
Yeah. I mean, again, none of these teams are perfect, but I do think
very good. Incredible.
I do think Oklahoma City, I mean, especially the energy that they've come out with in pretty much every game. Looking ahead to tomorrow, we've got some series that are 3-1. Obviously, Bucks Pacers, with the Damian Lillard injury has kind of lost the juice. The Pacers are up 3-1. The Knicks going back to the Garden with a 3-1 lead on the Pistons. The Celtics up 3-1 going back to the Garden. Wait a second. Over Orlando. and then we've got Clippers and Nuggets, which is 2-2. And it's probably I think the series of the first round so far, when you consider how
absolutely,
I mean, it doesn't get any closer than the buzzer beater from Aaron Gordon the other night. Let's talk about the 3-1s. I mean, which one of these 3-1s do you think is over? I mean, do you think they're all done?
I think Bucks Pacers for sure is done. And again, really, really unfortunate situation with Damian Lillard. Hopefully he's back spirits high and all that, because it's just tough to see him go out like that, right? But I do think that series is over, and I think Indiana ends up winning this pretty comfortably in Indy. The only team that I see extending their series tonight or on Tuesday would be the Knicks and the Pistons. I think the Pistons can steal a game here in MSG and send it back to Game 6. Especially with the way that game ended, with the officiating and the physicality. I think the Pistons come out hungry. I think they can extend the series, but I think Boston finishes them off, and I think Indiana finishes them off.
Boston needs to finish them off, actually.
Yes, they do.
I think that of the three, Boston probably needs it the worst just because of the injuries. Drew Holiday's probably not going to play in this game. Jason Tatum's banged up. We've been talking about Jaylen Brown's knee for the last few weeks, although it hasn't really slowed him down all that much in the playoffs. But I think, Boston last year, they had an amazing run, and I think health was such a key component of that run.
It always is. It always is in every playoff.
Team. Yeah. And it feels like they're starting this out, a little bit stuck in the mud because of some injury stuff. So I think they need to close it out. Let's talk Clippers and Nuggets before we get out of here, because again, this is the most compelling series. I mean, it's this or maybe Rockets Warriors before last night's game, but Clippers Nuggets. I don't know what to think about the Nuggets, because I thought we were all going to be talking about how they were done and what happens this summer, what happens next, and they managed to win this game, and now they're going back to Denver, where that's a tough place to play. And you're going from the beach straight there. I don't know. How you feel about the Clippers?
I was going to throw it back at you. I was going to ask you who you think.
I'll tell you, the way I think this is going to play out, I think the Clippers are going to lose to the Nuggets in Denver. I just think when you lose a game like that,
it's deflating.
Especially after the comeback, right? Like the emotional roller coaster that you've got to go through. And you're watching that film and you're saying, oh, well, we didn't lose it necessarily on this last second play. We lost it here. We lost it here. And I just think it's tough to come back from. But I think this is going to go 7.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the Clippers just have, more legs. I mean, like you look at the game the other night, and the Nuggets are forced to play everybody for the majority of the second half of the game. They just don't have the guys. Michael Porter Jr. took an amazing game from him. Took one of the best games I've seen from Christian Brown, 2-way games. Yeah. And they win it on the closest buzzer beater I've ever seen in my life. So I just think that when push comes to shove, like Jokic is going to, he is human. I just think that the Clippers have more.
Yeah, I mean, how many more times are you going to replicate the formula that you did in Game 4, where you played all these guys massive minutes, and to your point, Michael Porter Jr.'s shoulder, Russell Westbrook, the ankle situation. I will say, I think the wild card here for Denver is Jamal Murray hasn't really had one of those games, and he usually has at least one of those types of games. So maybe that ends up swinging the series in favor of Denver if he just goes ballistic for like a 35, 40-point night, which he's capable of doing. So I think that's the one key. That's kind of like the swing factor here for Denver. But the other thing is pace, right? Every game, whatever team has won has dictated the pace, has won the turnover battle, has won the offensive rebounding battle. So whatever team ends up doing that through the next 3 games, because I do agree with you, it'll go 7, they'll end up winning the series. I think the Clippers have more legs. That's undoubtedly true. But, I mean, the Nuggets have the best player in the world, man. And you can't discount that.
I will say this, though. The Clippers have the guy in Ivica Zubac who guards him the best.
Who can guard him. Yeah.
And we're saying this on the heels of what did Jokic have? 36, 20, and 8 the other night. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. But, I mean, this is, I think the Clippers are very well suited to be able to take Jokic out of it a little bit.
And Kawhi can raise to that level too, which is just another.
I mean, and James Harden, I he had a bad Game 4, and I don't know if he's going to be that bad again. If he's just has an average game, the Clippers are more in it when they start the comeback. So
the Nuggets played so desperate in Game 4, and it's like, can you continue to do that through 3 more games in this series?
With 5 guys.
Yeah, exactly.
The hardest part.
Tough.
All right, that's going to do it for the show, folks. Enjoy the games tonight. Thanks to Anthony Slater for joining us and staying up late after the Warriors game. For Es Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.